welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA. This is actually a guest episode, a surprise guest episode.
What's up? What's up?
So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Liam here. Yeah, thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks for doing this short notice. I wasn't even really expecting you to show up so quickly, right? Because I'm like,
good.
I gotta go clean my room, take a shower, do all of this, and then you're like, yeah, I'll be
I'm just
here.
like 2 minutes away.
Yeah, I was like, fuck. But we're here, and you know, the funny thing is, I always talk about the internet and internet friends and stuff like that, but this is actually
An internet
one of my oldest internet friends, and not to age us too crazy, but
MSN.
yes, back on the MSN days, when you were trying to meet random people, you just looked at your interests. I know, I was looking through anime and different things, and this is when you're 12, 11 in the old internet, so you didn't see these people. You never knew if the person might be child predator or whatever, but you just trusted the
internet. You trusted it.
and then after bam, you're friends. So I was talking to him, and then things changed to social media. Then we talked a little bit on social media.
It turned into Facebook.
Basically Facebook. Before Facebook, there was Vibe and T.Wire and all of that stuff. And you guys
Vibe and T.Wire,
yes.
man, bringing me back.
I loved Vibe because the thing with Vibe is, unlike T.Wire, I was heavy in the forums, and people just talked about things that were bigger than themselves, but it was still an interesting experience, and I've met a lot of online people there. But after that, there was Facebook, and then
even before that, if you think about it, around the MySpace days, there was a lot of people, young people were even doing coding without knowing it, because there was a lot of things with making your own websites type of thing.
Yeah.
As it was a social media website type of thing back in the day.
Exactly, and you had to figure it out, and you wanted your page to stand out,
to look a certain way,
exactly.
Have music playing, and all of that.
Exactly. So unlike today, where everything's kind of copy and paste, which is very efficient at times,
but basic at the same time.
It is, right? And that's why
it's all cookie cutter now.
Exactly. And
everyone's the same.
Yeah, I make fun of.
Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?
It's not a thing anymore, and that's why I always bash iPhone users. I'm sorry if you are an iPhone user.
No, but you see the Androids right here.
All right, this is a official iPhone hater episode, but you have the freedom to do whatever you want with Android phones, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I stuck with Androids. But anyways, yeah. So we moved from Facebook, and then there was certain stuff that we got into, right? And you guys already know what I'm gonna say, but I can't really say it on Facebook because not Facebook, YouTube, whatever platform this is, or this will end up being in. There's a censorship when you use certain terms, and this is going
certain
to be
keywords get flagged.
Exactly, right? So this is trying to get around that.
Maybe there'll be some sound effects popped into words so that they can't hear the actual word.
Yeah, I might silence it, maybe make some beeps, honks, toots, right? And that could be a thing for the podcast, 100%. Right? Because it would work. But since we had certain interests that were similar, I think that's how we reconnected at the same time, and then we just started talking on WhatsApp and Signal,
Telegram, and
and all these
the newer Snapchat and all the modernized social
apps, right? And all these, and I guess you could say they're you could even say bootleg. People would say it's bootleg now, or counterfeit or knockoff networks. But the thing about these networks is that everything starts somewhere, and you have to build on that for it to become a following. And when we were on the internet, there wasn't one huge site to do a thing. You'd go on all these little different sites to do different things, and that's how you'd connect. But I was talking to my cousin yesterday, is social media is getting very strange, and even myself, I'm trying to get off it a lot more, because I have to use Instagram for the shop as well as my podcast page. But at the same time, I'm scrolling, and then let's say I'm following 300 people, I'll see 10 accounts, and then suggested posts.
My issue is the never-ending black hole of scrolling. You end up going down this rabbit hole of just, you're 3 hours later and it's freaking 2 in the morning and you're like, I was supposed to be asleep how many hours ago?
Exactly, and like you keep scrolling, and there's different
That social media dopamine drip.
Exactly. If you've seen, I think the movie's called, or it's not a movie, it's a documentary. It's called The Social Experiment.
No,
Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. So if you guys want to open your eyes, you should check that out. Even though it's like I think it's on Netflix. But, you know, I'm an old internet person, so anything that I could find, you know, I'm going to watch it, whether I have to pay for it or not. But anyways, so when we met, you were talking about being a roadie. Can you explain to the audience what that is?
Oh, you gotta be a certain type of blood to be a roadie.
Okay. But, like, give us an example of what a roadie is, or the definition, because it's pretty
someone who's
foreign.
just on the move. Someone who's just on the move, who likes to be on road, who likes to, you know, whether it's you know, driving for work or driving for fun, or, you know, just driving, as long as you're not driving no one crazy. But like, nowadays, what's crazy?
The gas prices. The gas prices.
Yeah, so who's gonna be a roadie nowadays? I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience, and that's the thing about just being a roadie or just going out. Like, I think the past 2 years have kind of made it to a point where a lot of people have become a lot more paranoid, right? With my first guest episode, I was talking to my cousin, and it was like the most awkward experience because I haven't talked to him in a while, but I felt nervous, which was really strange because I've known this kid for like a majority of his life, but there was that awkwardness, and even going out, I feel a little bit more anxious, and I'm not a person that really gets anxious. So how are your thoughts on that? What do you think is going on
podcasts or on
in general
with
like
the
going
gas
out,
or,
going out,
leaving? Since like everything being locked down and
exactly, and we're opening up.
I haven't stopped going out since day one.
Okay,
so I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried.
Okay, you're not too worried. So we were talking about, you know what we were talking about, and what are your views on, you know, the poke? I'll say the poke, I guess, because
the hokey pokey.
Yeah, the hokey pokey.
I don't know. It turns people's lives around.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about.
Trust me. I think there's two separate groups of people that have to find a median ground, and that's the extremes on both sides. I think the vaccinated and the unvaccinated on both sides need to come to a middle point in respect, because at the end of the day, truthfully, scientifically speaking, there's academic journals for research on this. With the vaccine shedding, it's passed through urine. So that means that if you look and study in our water filtration system, it can't actually be filtered out, whether it's sex-changing hormones, prescription drugs, drugs in general, or, as we come to know, the hokey pokey. So people think that they're, quote-unquote, these pure-blooded people.
Oh, boy.
And unless they are really off the grid, far, far away from society, living as a caveman, or maybe, you know, an Amish person or something.
Yeah.
I honestly don't see... Actually, not just that. I'm not going to... Or, like, you know, indigenous and everything, living off the land and stuff. Mm-hmm. Which, truthfully, a lot of our system's been infiltrated by all this stuff anyways. The waterways, all that stuff. So going back, the shedding can't be filtered out through the filtration systems. Even if people always say, oh, I got a water purifier. Oh, I got a water purifier. But it doesn't get things out that the people are still getting stuff on a small scale, microdose scale, mm-hmm. that this hokey pokey, as you want to call it, it basically regrows itself. It regenerates within the body of those who actually took it. But there's also blood work done of people who haven't, but have been with people who have, mm-hmm. and their blood work shows that it's the exact same.
Oh, wow.
So understanding that with the shedding, that when it's going through being urinated out through the water system, because it is passed through any bodily fluid, it is being pumped throughout the system as a whole. So if you have, whether it's 70 to 90% of the population who has it, the other group of people that are still living in this system is actually still being infected, whether they think it or not.
Hmm. Okay, so this whole war on the people who took the shot and the people who haven't took a shot, it makes zero sense.
It's the right and the left. It's the up and the down. It's the black and the white. It's the this and that. Trying to feel like someone has more power than another group, or someone's ideologies is inherently a better ideology than another group's ideology, and that's not right, because each person's reality is subjective to their own reality. So each person's reality is as true to themselves as another person's reality is to themselves. So to impose your reality on another person is forcefully trying to make them change their reality, change who they are, change their perspective, when they've had different life experiences that have led them to make their decision, whether it was to take it or to not take it.
Okay, wow, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, I told you, I got lots to speak, bro.
Of course,
I got those speaks, lots of them. They come out.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here. So, I guess since you had all of that to say, how have you dealt with life just being yourself? Because I think that's something that's a big challenge, not necessarily for our generation, but Gen Z and
the
everything.
Younger generation.
Oh yeah, because you'll see TikTok.
So they're basically it's my family basically. There's younger kids around and stuff. Mm-hmm. I've gotten to see the implications of social media, and it's interesting because they have become very introspectively aware to a point that is way beyond most of even our generation.
Oh yeah?
Yes. Maybe not all of them, because don't get me wrong, it's hit and miss with society as a whole, because it's all a matter of upbringing, nature, nurture, etc. But from the circle that I've seen of the younger generation, there is some that are already aware to the stuff that's going on. And the interesting thing is, despite the introspectiveness and being aware, you can see the ripple effects of the dark side of social media. You see how it's shaped them, back to what we were saying earlier when I was saying about the cookie cutter thing. You see that it is shaping them in a way that is... Well, this is another thing, how there's two different TikToks.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I've heard about that.
And I won't go into that because we don't want anything to be blacklisted on...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We're trying to be safe, but you guys know where we're heading with this.
So now there's one that teaches you things to make a society stronger, but then there's one that's degrading the society. Now, the algorithms, if you are utilizing the algorithms to your best benefit, yeah, you might get some thirst traps and, some messed up stuff that still shows up because they want that to still show up so that the algorithm can make it start popping up more if you interact with it by accident or whatever. If you've watched it a certain amount of times, the algorithm will show that and more of it will come up. So I think when it comes to the younger generations, I think what's happened is that they're very much a byproduct of social media, to the point, and I'll use one example that I've seen the most, and I'm sure you can admit this too, on TikTok. Every young person has those LED lights, and they're in their rooms, and a lot of them have the clouds, the fake clouds.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
The amount of fads that used to be a thing for us has changed, because it wasn't that the fads were like on a global scale. Basically, everyone's becoming westernized people, not everyone, because each country, I don't want to get into each country.
Of course, we don't want to box people.
Let's talk about what we know. The Western civilization, we've been... I'm losing where I was going with
It's
that.
It's okay, but you know what? I'm going to add on to your thing with the lights thing.
Yeah.
That trend, drives me nuts. It drives me nuts because even, if you go on the block, we could walk down the block right now, or if it gets darker, we walk down the block. If you look up, you'll see the lights. You'll see the same lights, right? And back to you with the younger generation, you just ran into my sister. My sister pretty much does what she wants, right?
Yeah.
And I respect it to an extent, but at the same time, with how I've been brought up and everything, it's just like you have to care about people who are around you, but at the same time, you have to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Right? And I think helping raise my sister, I've instilled that, but at the same time, sometimes
it's still different.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure, because I see that myself. But going back with the whole fads thing, I think it was different for us because social media wasn't what it is now. We didn't have social media when we were younger, so fads for us was more localized.
Oh yeah,
it was YTV was whatever kids show, whatever the most popular, whether it's Pokemon, whatever it may be. There were certain things, Tech Decks, all these certain things, Crazy Bones, Pogs. I won't get into too much into the nostalgia.
Yeah,
but
we don't want this to be a flashback episode.
But start aging us.
The thing is, just talking about that, I remember how even like rumors went around, and you'd hear like, because he said Pokemon, I remember there was this Pokemon rumor like, oh, if you played this version of Pokemon and you did A, B, and C, this would happen. And it's just like, it's so strange that even though we didn't have cell phones and all of that, if you talk to people later in life, so like let's say you reach 20 and you say, oh, remember this, somehow all the kids knew the same thing or they heard the same rumors, and it's not even
passed around through word of mouth, but it was different.
And
it
word of mouth, the reach, the reach was disgusting.
It still reached,
right? It's like
but now, sorry, going into that though, is the difference between that though, even though the reach was still widespread in a sense, because of the world scale social media effect. The whole box cutter mentality, the cookie cutter, sorry, not box cutter, the cookie cutter mentality has played a huge shaping of the younger generation, to the point where I would almost say a good portion of their thoughts are not their own. Their thoughts are based off of the social norm, the social cues that have been implemented into the mainstream social medias and the media in general, basically.
Yeah, just to zoom up on his point, just go if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, or if you follow anything, and I'm gonna say it's toxic, I don't care, like 6ixBuzz for example, go in the 6ixBuzz comment section. When you look in some of these comment sections, even on YouTube, people will make the exact same jokes, people will make the same references, people will make the same jokes. It's not original, right?
Everyone looks the same, everyone talks the same. Look at the best example now is Toronto man slang. If you go to a country now, no matter what country it is, unless they're locked down on, completely on a different level, if you go to most countries that are connected to the global social media system, if you talk like, yo, mans, what are you dealing with, mans? Yeah. When you start doing that, they're going to know where you're from.
Yeah.
So the effects of this has became something that now you see people that are not even from Toronto, I mean, you see people picking up this slang and using it now, and they're from different parts of like America, etc.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, and the only example I can use that's similar to that would be the start of rock music, when it started going back and forth between the States and between England. So between California and all these different ways that their speech is, and then with Britain, the way their speech is, each rock group on both sides would try to sound like the other one, until it got to the point where it was very much like the Green Day, like the Good Charlotte, like all those, and the Dude and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That it branched into that. It morphed into that.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's the connection of two.
And that was just with music.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's on a whole nother level with social media.
Yeah, and with the whole catfishing thing, and I'm throwing catfishing in there because you're saying that, people from different areas are talking or picking up slang from other areas, and it's gotten to the point where someone might pretend that, like, if they're here in the GTA, they'll be like, oh, I'm from New York, and they'll start talking like a New Yorker or someone who's in Brooklyn, right? And it's just like, if you know the person, you know the man is not from New York. Right? It's a Brampton man, right? The Brampton man's, they're talking like someone from Scarborough, like deep in Scarborough, or like someone who's talking like a Bear Hood man, but they're like really suburbs.
Well, not even just on the catfishing, but I have a homie who he has an American accent.
Mm-hmm.
He's not from America.
Mm-hmm.
He's African, but raised here.
Okay.
But he has an American accent to the point where everybody who talks to him assumes that he's from America.
Yeah, and it's from what you consume.
It's from what you consume.
Yeah.
Movies, social media, music, all of it plays a huge factor, right? And talking about consumption, that goes into everything from what we were talking about with the water. When you're consuming stuff that is... This is one of my favorite sayings. Junk in, junk out.
Yep.
That goes for food.
Mm-hmm.
That goes for what you put in your body, whether it's through your eyes, through your mouth, through your ears, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to be living a certain life and you're expecting, let's say, quote unquote, positive results, but your life is not in alignment with your ideologies, you're a waste man, eh?
I know what you're trying to say, and that's the thing that I talk about in the podcast a lot. Where I talk a lot about like dualism, or just kind of like looking at things in a different perspective. Because a lot of people will approach something and they'll be like, "This is how it is because I feel this way," or "I was told this way," and this and this and that. You can learn a lot from what other people have done, but at the same time, we're in such a transformative age where, like, if you do something, and it's rare now, where if you do something different and you capitalize on it, because we're in a capitalist society, you could be rich suddenly, right?
So capitalism, this is another thing. So it's interesting because we live in a capitalist socialist society, but it's changing, it's morphing. We're going through a wave where it's looking like it's turning into a communist society. Now, the thing with that, even in communism, you have oligarchs. The people who know how to ride the wave as the wave comes are the ones who reach the top.
That's right.
And it's through the worst financial crisis that you can find the people who become the richest. You just have to know how to do it. Now, going into everything that we're talking about, the people who genuinely are for the people and who want the world to be a better place and not live out of hate, but genuinely out of love, who might disagree but still loves their neighbor and still respects their neighbor, even if their neighbor is not on the remotely same page, whether it be religious, medical, health, health is the same thing, but anything in between, financial, whatever it may be, a disagreement that, could turn into a huge battle between people just out of ego. What we really can do with people who live out of love and try to work on healing the people, if this next wave that comes, which it's going to, sooner than later, the right people that ride the wave can make this world a better place. And will make this world a better place. But it's about actually being active in not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, right? And we have the opportunity right now to ride the piggyback of capitalism, and be able to utilize it with its advantages at this point in time. And even social media, like podcasts, etc., like what's going on, right?
Around the table, PTA.
So a little plug right there. But I think that a big thing is that the more people who are utilizing these outlets with the right intentions are causing these ripple effects in the matrix, the system as we know it. And it's the ripple effects, even though they seem small, like a little pebble, it still creates a wave pattern that's going out further to basically hit the other side of the pond. And we're seeing that. Examples, which I won't get into because I think there's more to it than what is perceived, but I think that it did cause a positive effect, but I think that there was players behind it. But the convoy is a perfect example.
Oh, I covered that. You guys check out my convoy episode.
It's interesting to see because it goes back to the whole thing with Kony 2012. At the beginning of Kony 2012, the video that started, he's like, I am doing a social experiment. He admits it. That social experiment was a runner-up for the global widespread to see how that it can be impacted to get people to follow the social, what's hot,
the narrative,
the social narrative, to follow the leader. And I feel that money was being put into these movements to create a tighter implementation for food, etc., coming in and stuff. But the ripple effect. When you look at the videos of the people that were in these convoys, you can see that it was people living out of love. They were sharing food with homeless. Homeless people were saying that they've never eaten so good in their entire life.
Oh, damn.
So this is showing the effects of people living out of love. Now, the ripple effect also caused, and once again, could be money as well into that, but there was a ripple effect because it became global and people became aware of it.
That's right.
And now these ripple effects are also affecting the governments because globally now the governments are getting more scrutiny to the point where Pfizer, I don't know if I can say that, but let's say Wiser, you can cut that one out, the first one out.
Yeah.
Wiser had to delist off the stocks and merge into a new company. That's for legal, to be legally, not liable. Why is that? And why was there so much funding being pumped in globally for that? Right? There's stuff that just, when you read the 8.5 reactions that 8.5 pages of adverse reactions. Sorry.
Possible.
Yes, possible. But you also look into the UK's data. The UK's data is actually pretty good. I believe it's showing. Don't quote me on this because I might be wrong.
It's okay.
But I believe it's 1 in 35 that has the hokey poke, or 1 out of 35 who has taken the hokey pokey has died.
Wow,
that is a high number. But if you look on the websites for the ones who created these, they show that their trials were running from up till 2022 and 2023. So when you understand how trials work, trials need placebos. And I was saying this from the get-go. I was telling people that there will be people who are getting placebos and people who aren't, and it's going to make people think that it is actually not as bad as it is. That's element number 1. Element number 2, when people got the boost, it already was getting tinkered with to fine-tune it, basically, so it wouldn't be as noticeable for the effects and stuff. So you get that. And when you look at it, if you actually were to if you were to do a lot of the math with all this stuff, there's a lot of interesting stuff, because Kill Gates, he stated that, they did not globally get 70% of the global population with the hokey pokey. Now, granted, it's in the water system, so they did kind of get a lot more than it is perceived.
Yeah, but it's not as potent, right?
But it can grow, it regenerates. So that's where, and we'll go into the anti-parasitic stuff. Now, when he's saying that not 70%, that means that there is at least over 2 billion of the world's population, at least, that has not taken it. And now, if we consider the numbers who have taken the first or second, but won't take the boosters, because personally, most people that I know aren't taking the boosters.
Yep.
Whether it be interactions with people, I've met people who work for the government and work with at-risk people, and I have been told before this started coming up with in the offshoot news and journals and different things, but how I was told to look about the boosters and HIV.
Wow, that was a lot, wasn't it? Anyways, guys, that's the first part of the C Theory guest episode. Maybe the second part will come out next week, or I'm going to put another episode or another guest episode in between. This episode is actually a super long episode. It's over an hour, so I'm trying to cut it up into smaller bits. I know you guys are used to things that are like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but usually when there is a guest episode, people tend to pay attention a little bit more or listen longer because there's two different voices. So hopefully you guys like this episode. Yeah, I know it's a little bit extreme to most of you guys, but I can ask my guest to provide me with a bunch of links to stuff that he is talking about. I know it's pretty off the rails. Maybe this might be the episode that gets me canceled, but who knows? Either way, guys, hope you guys are enjoying it so far. I'm going to make this in parts, like I said previously, but I also might put the full thing in one episode as well later if people want to have the super long version or the regular version of the episode. Anyways, take care. Have a nice day.